Barnaby Howarth is an extraordinary man. With a promising AFL career ahead of him, he had no idea that when he went out with a group of friends one weekend, him stepping in to help his mate that was being terrorized by a group of men would change his life. One punch, and Barnaby never saw life the same again. However, he hasn't been one to sit down and take adversity. In fact, he's been a fighter ever since, managing everything that's come up as a result of that one night and turning adversity into resilience, into a message that people hear. He now spends his time sharing his story and hearing of other people who have amazing stories to tell in his Everyday Greatness podcast. A simple Aussie guy who lost his first love and married again to find true love once more. It's easy to say that Barnaby may have the world at his feet. This podcast episode is lighthearted, but also very sound in the knowledge that no matter what we face, we can overcome it with a little bit of what this guy has, which is a good attitude, a positive outlook on life, and a fundamental belief that if you're just a good guy, you can get on with it. Be kind to others. And as he likes to say, don't be a dick. I hope you enjoy this episode with Barnaby Howarth. He has a lot to share, a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, and a hell of a lot of grit. If you like this episode or any other episode, subscribe, share, comment. Tell me what you thought about what Barnaby shares with us today, because he, as with the other guests, has definitely learned how to think uncommon. Barnaby, thank you very much for joining us today on the Uncommon podcast. I appreciate you taking time to join us.
Thanks, Joe. It's a real privilege being here, so thank you for inviting me.
Anytime. Barnaby, I'm just going to roll through a little bit of some of what you've achieved in your life, and forgive me for having to read this off a list, because when I was doing a little bit of research about you, I found that there was a lot. So let me just note a couple of points. And by no means is this an exhaustive list. You're inducted to the Sydney Swans AFL Hall of Fame.
Sorry, can I just pull you up on that one? Sydney AFL.
Barnaby, thank you very much for joining us today on the Uncommon podcast.
You're welcome. It's a real privilege. Thank you for inviting me, Joe.
Anytime. Now, Barnaby, when I was doing some research about you, I noticed that there is an awful lot to learn about you. And I'm just going to roll off a couple of things, because I think if I went through the whole list, that would probably be the total 45 minutes. So let me start with a couple of highlights. Inducted to the AFL Hall of Fame, keynote speaker. You've survived a near-death experience, which we'll talk a little bit about. Climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. You're an author of a book called Playing in the Puddles. You have a podcast called the Everyday Greatness Podcast. Now, that's a lot of references for a guy who's clearly very young.
Oh, stop it. No, not that young, but yeah, look, I've done a lot of things that I'm really proud of. And I know we'll get into this later, but I've done them by just putting one foot in front of the other, working hard, being good to people. I didn't find a mystical X factor or a magic bullet. Just kept on keeping on even when things seemed hopeless.
There goes my first question, Barnaby. I was going to go straight for can I have the mystical X factor or the magic bullet? I'll pay for it.
I really don't believe there is one. So when I was younger, I thought there was one, and that's what I was aiming for. And I was trying to find it when I was playing footy. Never found it. Played one season at the Swans, but got dropped after that season and thought it was because I hadn't found my X factor. Then I had a stroke when I was 25 and nearly died. And I spent the first 3 months of my rehab waiting for my X factor, thinking that I wouldn't be able to survive and rehabilitate without it. But I felt a bit hopeless because it just wasn't coming. And I was looking everywhere. I was asking people and watching documentaries and reading books, but I just couldn't find it. Then I started the Everyday Greatness podcast and spoke to some people who I thought had it. And they all said without a doubt, every single one of them said the most successful people we know are just good, genuine, honest people, just working hard, being good to people. The Governor General of Australia's mantra is care, kindness, respect. So if anybody proves there's no X factor, just all you need to do is keep working hard and being good to people. That the Governor General's mantra proves it to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually had the privilege of interviewing Hugh Hilton, who's known as the 9-figure man, who's a billionaire entrepreneur. No doubt you know him.
Mm-hmm.
Methodology, which is very similar. He calls it the 6 C's, and one of those methodologies is curiosity, and with an expansion of that of just fun, and having a good time while you're doing what you're doing. He likes the same sort of theory, which is there's no magical potion per se. And it's different for every person what it takes to get to where you want to go to. But there is a foundation. And that foundation is exactly what you've just referred to. And the key is just consistency, showing up every day and doing the thing and just relentlessly going and going and going.
Correct. Couldn't agree more. And I've just got to qualify that I'm nowhere near the 9-figure echelons. But yeah, look, I think every successful person in life has just done the same thing. They just plant seeds of small goodness everywhere they walk, think it's no big deal, it's not doing anything. But then weeks, months, years down the track, it's those seeds that start to flower that result in success.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've seen that happen many, many times where people think they've had enough, they're going to give up, they've got and then they're just on the verge of that massive breakthrough. And on the other side of the decision not to go ahead was an opportunity that they missed.
Yeah, bloody oath.
And then likewise, you've got those people that persist through regardless of how tough it is, much like yourself, and they just keep going with good faith of it'll turn out the way it's meant to. And if I show up every day with consistency, then inevitably I will become, and inevitably I will have the impact.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, I love that. So Barnaby, the Uncommon podcast is designed to tell stories of people who have what we refer to as an uncommon mindset. The podcast itself came from my own exploration, where I've spent a lot of time around people who are David Goggins fans. I myself fall into that category. I'm a great admirer of David's work and his tenacity through significant adversity. The amount of resilience that man demonstrates daily is definitely something next level. The podcast itself is designed to have stories of everyday people come in and just share that you can be whatever you want to be. It's not always a straight line to success, and it's almost never comfortable on the way through. But through adversity, you can overcome every single challenge that shows up in your way. The Stoics have a saying that the obstacle is the way, and that's a foundation for the life that I lead. But I don't want to start off with the obstacles for you, because I think that that's where people go very early. And what I'd like to do instead is take a little bit of a left turn, with your permission.
Sure, yeah, fire away.
The question I had for you today is, what was Barnaby Howarth created for?
What was I created for? I think I was created to help other people realize that everything they need to be the person they want to be is inside them right now. I want to break down that, not a myth, but that thought that people need something more if they want to be better. I think everybody as they are is good enough and has all the tools they need to be successful. Just a matter of believing in yourself and backing yourself and just saying, look, I don't feel like I've got it, but I know I can try. So that's what I believe I was created for, to help people realize that for the penny to drop, that they can do it on their own without external help.
Brilliant. I love that. That is such a great foundation to start from. If you go back in time, was there a moment where you realized that that's what you were put here for?
No, definitely not. Actually, the exact opposite. I grew up with, my parents were my shining light, my guiding compass. And they always said to plant seeds of small goodness everywhere you walk. Chat to the kid that serves you at the supermarket, say good day to people when you walk past them on the footpath. And I always did it, but I always thought, this is a waste of time. Mum and Dad have no idea what they're talking about. But the older I've got, the more life I've lived, the more I've realised that the only reason I've got through my adversities is because of the friendships I've made from the people around me. when I planted seeds of small goodness, thinking it was doing absolutely nothing in the world. So no, you asked if I had a moment where I believed it. I always disbelieved it. I always thought it was wrong. And during my stroke recovery, I thought I'd lived my life the wrong way, and I was quite flat. But now, the older I get, the more I realise I'd been living life the right way the whole time. I just didn't realise it.
Wow. So it really ties into the presupposition that everything happens as it's meant to whom it's meant to, when it's meant to. That doesn't necessarily mean that you understand it when it happens. Sometimes it's hindsight that reveals the truth.
Exactly right. I think there's so many people that just try things, think it's no big deal, that have incredible success, but not because it was a planned path to success. They just thought, oh, well, this is cool. I'll give this a crack and see how we go. So if I can tell a quick little story, I met a young diabetic girl on a diabetes cruise a few years ago, and she was really flat, like depressed, and had thoughts of very dark thoughts. Got on the cruise, we held a workshop, and she got up on the microphone and just told her story and said the thing she missed the most about getting diabetes was singing. She used to sing all the time, but after diabetes, she was quite badly bullied and just stopped trying. Then that night, I was in the bar on the ship with my dad and a few people from the Diabetes Foundation, and a young girl got up to start singing karaoke. And someone said, is that the girl that was in a dark spot? Sure enough, she got up under the lights in a room full of strangers, sang karaoke, just gave it a crack, and she sang like an angel. She's turned her life around. She just recently had her first child. So from the real bad, dark depths, she just gave something a crack, not thinking it was the path to success, just something she wanted to try, gave it a go, happened to be awesome at it, and she's now living a blessed life.
I love that story. I'm so glad that you shared it. Effectively, what you've just done is she's taken the pressure off herself. And because she removed the pressure, she was able to just give it a crack, as you say.
Exactly right. She just doubted herself. Everything she tried, she doubted she could do. But this day at the workshop, a penny dropped, and she's like, well, I don't know if I'll be a good singer, but I can give it a crack and try. Got up and she sang like an angel. I was blown away. It was so emotional.
Wow. Where do you think that doubt comes from?
I think it comes from societal pressure. I think we live in a society today where there's so much pressure to be better than you are right now. So social media, everyone's building their personal brands. Everyone's just trying to establish themselves. And I think you've talked about it before. The fake it till you make it is one of the most unhealthy ways of seeing the world I can imagine. So everybody thinks that because they look at other people who they look to be successful, but they're just personal brands themselves. Yeah. Everyone's creating these fake avatars. There's people that are just basket cases, but they're fooling the world and thinking they're successful. Then everybody's trying to up them and trying to be better than them. So they've got to be more successful. And I think that pressure comes from them just pretending to be someone they're not. So they're all trying to fool the world into thinking they're successful. Yeah. But I'm doing okay with my work, but I have doubts and I have concerns, and I'm not always 100% happy and positive and yeah, let's dominate the world. But people seem to think that you can't have those insecurities. You have to be perfect all the time. But it really annoys me. So I'll get down off my soapbox, but that's what I think about it.
I love the fact that you brought up the word perfect, because one of the misnomers around the word perfect right now is we have reestablished the word perfect to mean flawless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
In fact, and you may already know this, but in Greek language, the initial version of the word perfect means complete.
Right.
So we have actually changed the meaning of the word to suit the times. Where perfect way back then was used more often in a more sensical term.
Yeah.
How it's used as a standard. And we've got movements like the imperfectly perfect movement that are out and about, just showing people don't have to be perfect, while simultaneously we've got people that are trying to attain perfection based on their view of the world. And as you said, we've got people in between that are trying to continuously morph into this version of themselves that they're not. And as a result of striving for this elusive perfection, they fall, and some of them fall very, very hard and very deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people make it too complicated. I think people aim for that perfection of being flawless, but really all you need to do is just not be a toolbox. Just try your hardest, be proud of yourself, whether you win, lose, or draw, and be good to people. Like you and I have spoken before about life not being rocket science. Yeah. I mean, everyone's got their skills and their aims and their ambitions, and cool, go your hardest to try and achieve those, but just be good to people on the way, and things will work out.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Which brings me into what you and I were talking about before we started today, the whole concept of trust equity, that element of you show up as you are to the best of your ability, which some days is going to be your 10 out of 10. But there are also going to be days where your best is a 4 or a 6. It doesn't negate the fact that it's your best. It just means it's your best on that day, and accepting who you are on that given day. Now, as a person that's been through significant adversity, going all the way back to learning how to walk and talk and brush your teeth, you started back from ground zero at what age?
25.
25 years old. Can you tell us how you found yourself there?
Yeah, sure. So I was bashed in an alcohol-fueled gang attack, and I tore my basilar artery, which is the single artery that carries all the blood from your body to your brain. So if that's damaged, there's a 90% fatality rate, but mine was torn. So I was taken straight to emergency. My parents were told they might have to turn off life support. Family and friends were told to come and say goodbye. But 4 days later, I came to and didn't really catch on to what the drama was, but everybody was crying in the room. It was all emotional. Someone told me I had a stroke on the Thursday. I'd been unconscious all weekend, and it was now Monday. One of the doctors came into the room and he said he thought the only reason I'd survived was because I was still really fit from playing football. So that comes back to that seeds of small goodness thing. I worked really hard as a footballer and tried to stay as fit as I could to try and help my team win games. And it was that fitness that I'd built up for a different reason that helped me survive a stroke. I didn't strive for fitness because I thought I might suffer adversity one day. I just strive for fitness because it was a good thing to do for my team and to represent myself and my family as best as I could. And it just happened that turned out to be a good decision. So, yeah, it was a really long journey. So after the stroke, all the signals I built up from my brain to the left side of my body had been completely wiped clean. So I was going to have to relearn how to use my left side again like a newborn baby, which was really frustrating and really long and arduous. But same as we said before, it's just repetition. So one of my exercises was to get plastic beads out of a bowl in my fingers, put them into a cup, and then transfer them back the other way. And every time I did it, I thought, this is such a waste of time. This is so boring. It's not doing anything. But the accumulation of doing that over and over and over again meant that I could eventually start using my left hand again and my left leg. And as you said, the trust equity thing, you know that if you do enough of that, when you doubt that it's doing anything, you just know that your therapist are telling you the right thing and you keep doing it. And the success of the accumulation of that stuff is what brings you to where you are.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way of really expressing compound, right?
Yeah.
Compounding everything, the small movements that you do at the beginning with repetition and consistency will compound the end results. And the more you do the things that seem insignificant, I'm thinking back to the Karate Kid movie, which is definitely prevalent in our younger years, where, you know, the wipe on, the wax on, wax
off. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Ralph Macchio loses his bike. Yeah. I don't get it. This is ridiculous. And then Miyagi shows him. He's like, oh, right, I get it. But you can see the frustration in Ralph Macchio's character at the time. Is, why didn't you tell me this in the first place? Underneath that is this element of, I didn't want you to know what the outcome was. I needed you to trust the process.
Yeah, that's a very good Chinese sensei accent as well.
It's a really good lesson for life, I think, especially with so much going on. There really is adversity everywhere. We are living in quite difficult times. We are very aware right now. So more than ever, we're aware of what goes on around us. And in information superhighway, We can find out absolutely everything at any given time. So what do we do with that, and how do we manage that? For you, when you were learning all of these new things, tell me about some of the things that you experienced from a day-to-day when you're going from taking beads from a cup back to a plate, learning to walk again.
So that's a good question. The best advice I got to help me through that process was from my old footy coach, who always said, focus on the game plan, the result will take care of itself.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what the result was going to be. I was actually, when I was flat, I thought I was almost certain to have a pretty adverse result and not be able to walk and be in a wheelchair and have a pretty miserable life. But I thought, no, I'll trust my therapist. They're telling me this will work, the beads thing will work, and the exercises I had to learn to swallow again, which I thought was a waste of time. I thought, I know how to swallow. I'm not an idiot. But I just, they told me I had to do it, so I trusted them and I did it over and over again. So I had no idea what the result would be, but I knew that I had to just give everything I had to the game plan, and that would all take care of itself in time. And now, like climbing Kilimanjaro, and you missed one fact, I walked the Kokoda track as well. So doing that, made a footy comeback to play my 100th game. So a lot of physical things I'm really proud of happened because I just focused on the game plan and did trusted people who were telling me what to do, knew what they were on about, did it over and over again. And now I am where I am because of all of that.
So you're lucky in a way that you've got all of these coaches in inverted commas helping you out, telling you what to do. But the coach-client arrangement doesn't work unless the client trusts the coach. So you obviously have implicit trust in the people that were giving you direction.
I'd never met most of my therapists ever before, but I understood, I think, the Governor General's advice: care, kindness, respect. I respected them. They'd studied for years to be in the positions they were in. I didn't know them from a bar of soap, but they were telling me this will work. So I had no idea about occupational therapy or physiotherapy. So I just sat back and said, I don't know you, but I trust you and I respect you. So yes, I'll do it over and over again. And I fulfilled my end of the coach-client agreement. And turns out the coaches were awesome. So yes, very lucky.
Very lucky. Absolutely. Just goes to show that the people that are giving you the advice, when you're the type of person that wants to listen and really wants to follow the advice, being the person giving the advice, we really need to respect our roles and make sure that the advice that we are giving is appropriate and it's also educated. It's not something that we just throw out there in the breeze and go, yeah, this will work. It's no, this is customized for you at this point in time. This is what you need right now.
And as the client, I don't think you fully understand how much gets in. So you get this when you're an adult and you say something to a kid off the cuff, not really think it's that meaningful. Then 5 years later, they'll say, no, I did that. So, I tell my nephew to take the stairs every time instead of the escalator because it'll increase your fitness. And I just said it to him one day, not really thinking it sunk in. But then I saw him one day go up the stairs instead of the escalator. And he turned around and said, that was because you told me to. So really small stuff sinks in. So as the coach, you're probably more impactful and your message is probably more, is sinking in more than you realise. And as a client, you just have to trust that, as you said, coaches don't just throw stuff out there randomly. They are educated, they know what they're doing, and they are coaches because they have studied what needs to be coached.
Completely agree. Absolutely agree. It's a responsibility that needs to be taken seriously on both ends. And I'm so glad to see that you had such a good response because you decided to trust your coaches. And imagine if you hadn't have, right? Your life could have been completely different if you decided to be that person that instead woke up with negative attitude and decided to sink into having a victim mentality. Because nothing that you went through you asked for, nor did you create, advocate, or provoke. It was a case of wrong place, wrong time, for lack of a better word. And as a result of that, there were a series of events that happened. How do you, as a person who's suffered that, who's woken up with people around you crying and trying to explain to you what's going on, how do you explain to someone what it's like to be the person that steps in for a mate and instead of having that moment of hesitation, goes straight in and says, this is what I need to do?
Oh, look, just natural instinct. I think life's got a natural balance that you just have to trust that it'll work itself out. So yeah, sorry, I didn't say that bit when I was telling the stroke story, but the alcohol-fueled gang attack happened because my mate started a fight that didn't need starting, got out of hand, and turned into an all-in brawl. So yeah, look, my mate started the fight, and I ran over because I didn't think the fight needed starting. So I ran over and grabbed him and said, "No, you're being a toolbox. Let's go." And then the brawl happened, and that's where I got knocked out and blah, blah, blah. But I think life just has this balance you've got to respect. So my mate was being a tool. I ran and grabbed him, pulled him away. That was probably lucky for him that he didn't get caught up in it because I was looking after him. Then the gang attack happened. I got knocked out. That was unlucky for me. I had a stroke. That was unlucky. I literally couldn't stand still after the stroke. So it was all unlucky pretty much after the stroke. But then, as you said, I trusted my therapists. My therapist knew what they were doing. So that was lucky. So I think all of the unlucky stuff balanced itself out in my recovery from the lucky stuff I got. So when I hear people need advice from my story, I just tell them it's not, I didn't find anything mystical. Like I just kept on doing what I've been doing before. Try and be a good human being, look after the people around you, work hard, trust and respect the people that are giving you advice. So, yeah, look, I think the unlucky stuff has just balanced itself out. And I think I'm pretty even where I am. Like the bad stuff was a real struggle and really sucked. But I think the good stuff has I think the good stuff has probably outweighed the bad stuff now.
That's great to hear. I love that. I heard a thing on Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, quite some time ago that's really stuck with me. He talked about COVID and how his whole business shut down like many others during that time. And his mantra was never let a good crisis go to waste. And so he came out and wrote his book during that time and achieved great things because instead of sitting in the mentality of, I have no control over this, there's nothing I can do, he instead utilized his own agency, much like you did. And stepped into what can I do? Yeah.
There's a chef, Sean Christie David, who runs a group called Plate It Forward, who had a similar thing. He started Plate It Forward, a chain of community restaurants run by women from domestic violence, refugees who couldn't get citizenship, and it was a really big social enterprise. But it opened about a week after COVID, so he couldn't open the restaurants, but he paid his staff out of his own pocket to keep the restaurants open. Wow. So once COVID finished and the restaurants opened up, he's now the busiest man in Australia. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly the same thing.
Same thing, good human, right? Good human. We need more good humans.
Yeah, bloody oath.
Talking about good humans, you did a podcast with a mutual friend of ours, Trina Scoggins. You talked about an experience that you had with a human that has left quite an impression on you, your first wife, Angela. And you referenced something which is I don't hear very often, and it's the term unparalleled love. One of the things that successful people often are willing to inadvertently sacrifice along their journey to becoming what they want to be is love and connection. More often than not, people find themselves single because of their hustle and because of their commitment to the end. So for you, in the age of AI and disconnection and isolation and pursuit of success, and just knowing that you've been able to experience this type of love that so many people talk about and what we're all here to experience, can you tell us, how do you know?
So for me, it just slapped me in the face. It was so obvious. So after my stroke, I was really selfish. Everything was about me and my recovery and what I had to do. And I got to a point where I was at that age in life where I just wanted to find a wife. I wanted someone to spend the rest of my life with. And I was just looking around and I was on RSVP and using digital means and just trying to find someone. But I got to a point where I wasn't finding anyone. I wasn't having any luck. But the penny dropped that I got my coach's advice the wrong way around. I was focusing on the result and just hoping the game plan would take care of itself. So I thought, no, this is rubbish. It's not working and I don't feel good about it. So I started focusing on the game plan knocked off a few rough edges in my personality to try and be a more attractive person to be around. And literally about 2 weeks later, an old friend introduced me to Angela Gerges. And we shared this love that was so intense and so passionate, I wouldn't have believed it was true if I hadn't lived it myself. So Angela and I met in August 2013. Then she was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer in July 2014. So before she was diagnosed, we've been talking about getting married and what that looked like and, you know, how we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. So after she was diagnosed, she was quite scared because this was a secondary cancer. And the first time she was seeing a man and he left. He couldn't handle the seriousness of it. So he ditched her and said, sorry, I'm out of here. So I just saw it as my responsibility as someone who was deeply in love with this person to go through with our commitments. So I proposed to her the month after she was diagnosed. I was baptized in Angela's church, the Coptic church, and then we were married that November. And we went on 19 legs of our honeymoon. So talking about unparalleled love, like if you told me you'd had that experience with your partner, I would have said, that's a fairy tale. That's too good. But yeah, we had it and it was just incredible and unbelievable. So Angela passed away about a year after we were married. But I've remarried and now have a wife and a 17-year-old daughter who's having her birthday next week. And we're totally in love as well. And it's a different kind of love. It's a more realistic, understanding kind of love. But I'm just the happiest man on earth, Joe. So, yeah, it was. I had unparalleled love with Angela, but now I have unparalleled love with Julia. So I'm just living the dream.
Dream. I love that. Living the dream. That's where we all want to be, right?
That's right.
Living the dream in every element of our lives. One of the elements I talk about is relationships, obviously, but another one that I talk about is spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a spiritual battle at the moment, and a lot of the Christians will sit there and say, yeah, this is prophesy. We are in prophesied times. We know what's going on because we can see it because we've learned it.
Mm-hmm.
You've had your own encounter with Christianity. You've just said you got baptized in order to form the Christian life and walk the Christian way.
Mm-hmm. I
would love to hear, as a person who's vocally Christian, how your journey has shaped you.
So I always felt Andrew and I went to church every Sunday, even when she was sick. And I always found being at church, whether it was Coptic church or the Anglican church Julie and I got married in, was like being at my old footy club. Just a huge community of good people, all there for the same reason. Just in the church, they're trying to find God. At the footy club, they're trying to win premierships. So different reasons, but a bunch of good people all there, all pulling in the same direction. And the thing I found beautiful about it was when people ask you how you were, they'd stay and they'd stop and they'd look you in the eye and wait for your response. They wouldn't just walk past and go, how you going? And take off. So for me, the spiritual journey was just as much about the people as trying to find God. I recorded a podcast recently at the Anglican church we were married in, where Julia and I become good friends with the pastor and his wife. I still ring the priest from the Coptic church. I haven't been back to the Coptic church for a while because we've moved out of the area. But yeah, that spiritual journey for me is more about the people. So it's about the game plan and the result is taking care of itself.
Yeah. I think that's probably a really good analogy, especially as Christians, because we believe the result's taken care of, right? We've got a game plan. We really have the rules and everything. It can't get any more laid out than how laid out it is, right? Yeah, I love that. And the fact that you see the people, because I see people who are seekers and they bounce through churches all the time until they find that one right church that's I've been at mine for almost 20 years now. And I think about the things that I've gone through in my lifetime during that time at that church. And I think, wow, I reminisce on how much personally I have evolved, but also spiritually I have evolved purely because there were people in that church that took me under their wing and said, let me be that person that you rely on here. Let me be the person that brings you in. Let me be the person that sees your talents. And so I have a series of people around me, much like you do, who say, Jo, I want you to do this. Can you get involved in that? And I know that they know me and they have my best interests at heart. So I always say yes. It's sure. Yeah. What do you need? What do you need? I can do that. I can do that. And because you say yes to things, you find that the experience opens up so much more. Whereas for people who are struggling in a world where spirituality is rife and they're trying to find where they fit and what they believe in, it's a little bit more difficult because effectively we're looking for something to believe in. And it's not until we find something that makes sense to us that we can go all in on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's as we said before, it's not rocket science. You believe in the people, you trust in the people, and good things happen. So when Andrew and I were talking about getting married, we went and saw the priest and he said, you can't get married in the Coptic church unless you're both Coptic, and I was Anglican. So I said, all right, well, how do I go about getting baptized? He said, yeah, you need to do 3 learning sessions. So you got to come and see me. We'll do 3 sessions, then you can get baptized. So I went to see him after work one day for the first of the 3 sessions, and I was there for an hour and a half, and he was just pounding all this information in. And so he said, okay, that's it, we're done. And I said, so that's only one of 3 sessions? And he said, no, because I knew Angela's situation with her health, I put all 3 sessions into one. So you can get baptized tomorrow. So that was Father Matthew. He's a really sensational human being. But that's where you just trust in the people around you, and they can be doing good things for you without you even knowing. So I got baptized that weekend, and then we got married a couple of weeks later, and it was just the most beautiful chain of events, the most beautiful laid out situation for me with my wife's health. I was sort of focused on other things. So that's where you just put all your trust into other people and into good people around you, and things work out.
I think that's super important as well. The people that you have around you make all of the difference in your experience of life. I found that to be true so many times. When you're deciding the type of people that you want to have around you, what are some of the things that you look for?
So that's a good question. I don't think any human being, successful, unsuccessful, good, bad, ugly, whatever, I don't think we can choose the people we have around us. I think we gravitate towards certain people. But so the way I do it, I just try and find the good in everybody. I think everybody in the world, no matter what bad things they've done, has a glimmer of goodness about them. If you keep asking questions, you'll stumble on that switch that flicks in their head, and you can have a good relationship with them, even though they're a bad person. So I don't look for certain people and avoid others. I just go and speak to everybody I can. And some people are hard to get through and end up falling off your radar, but I don't make deliberate choices that you're a bad person, I don't want to hang out with you, you're a good person, I'll go over there. I think you just gravitate towards certain people, find the goodness or the similarities, the commonalities, and stick with them.
So you let yourself be led.
Correct.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really healthy way to go about it, as opposed to looking at a person for what they can offer you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Life's not a networking event.
Yes, I want to associate you because you can get me somewhere. So where can you get me? It's a real transactional relationship, whereas what you're suggesting is it is actually a relationship where people have things in common and have a genuine care about each other. And as a result of that, it will flourish into whatever it flourishes into.
Exactly. And if it sucks, then leave it alone. Like it's not offensive. It's not because they're a terrible person and they've done bad by you. Like sometimes you just don't get along with people. It's no big deal. I
have a thing that I say to a mantra that I say to my children, which I've raised them on, which is separate what the person does from who the person is. People, we're all the same as people. We all come from the same mold, the same foundation. Moore has a line in one of his songs which says, whichever God you believe in, we all came from the same one. And instill that in my children. We are the same. We show differently on the outside. Externally, we look differently, we act differently, we do differently. But fundamentally, when you come to the core of who we are all the same. Terence Howard say it one day, he encourages his children to find God in everybody.
Yeah.
I really like that mentality because it ties into what you're saying of find the good in everybody.
Yeah.
Regardless of who they are, regardless of what they've done, regardless of where you've come across them, find the good in everybody.
So one of the great lines about that came from Jude Bolton, who played at the Swans, and he's one of the toughest AFL players I've seen. I interviewed him on my podcast, and he said when the Swans created the Bloods culture, it was based on everybody knowing you don't have to like everybody you play with, but you have to respect them. So that just, for me, that sums up society perfectly. You don't have to love everybody you coexist with. It's not about holding hands and singing Kumbaya by the river. It's just about saying, hey, look, that's how you roll. Cool. Good luck to you. But I roll differently. So, we can get along. We can have a beer and have a chat. But you go your way, I'll go mine. No drama.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about not making an issue of the fact that you're the same, different.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned Kilimanjaro and Kokoda.
Mm-hmm.
The average person doesn't decide to do Kilimanjaro. The average person doesn't decide to do Kokoda. Both of those are really taxing physically and mentally as experiences and adventures, but also prep. Prep for both of those is quite simple. Now, I have a friend who's done the Kokoda Trail, and it took him 3 weeks to recover after.
Right.
So I'm curious to hear two things. First of all, I know that the people watching this podcast are definitely going to want to know about the prep. I would love to hear about the experiences of the two. One, you're in a tropical environment doing Kokoda, and in Kilimanjaro, it's completely the opposite from a weather perspective.
Yeah.
So talk me through both of those experiences from prep through to what are the biggest things that you learned?
Yeah, no drama. So the prep was intense. I'm diabetic as well. So I had to, in my prep, it was a lot about having enough insulin and sugar testing machines and making sure everything worked. I'll go one step back before the prep, though, was the reason for doing them both. And it was just people again. So my little sister had always wanted to climb Kilimanjaro with a youth leadership group she used to volunteer for, Y Lead. So I got to a certain point in my physical recovery after my stroke that I wanted to see how far I could push it. I still had that athlete mentality to challenge myself. So I asked her if she'd come with me. She's like, yep, I've always wanted to do it. Let's go. And then another old footy teammate of mine came along as well. So the reason for doing it was about the people. And we went with 20 young kids from Y Lead and the tour leader who I knew pretty well. But the prep was intense. I did some high altitude training with my footy teammate. He was still playing footy and I still had that footy mentality. So we did a lot of hill walking with heavy backpacks and things and got quite physically ready for it. Kilimanjaro is about the easiest of the big summits to conquer, though. So it's basically a long walk up a steep hill. The challenging part is the higher you get up, the thinner the air is. So we had a few people seeing rocks and getting a bit giddy and dizzy, and that was a challenge. But then my biggest challenge after the stroke was that my balance is still rubbish. So going up the last part, you go up in the middle of the night on all these loose stones, and I was slipping and falling all over the place and swearing like a trooper. We got to the first part of the summit. The summit of Kilimanjaro is it's a dormant volcano. So the first part is when you get to the rim of the volcano, but the actual summit is further round. But to get around there, it's on a slippery, slanted path. And it's icy up there because it's got snow 24/7, 365 days a year. So my porter said to our tour guide, I don't think Barnaby should try the last part because if he falls, it's into a volcano and it's helicopter evacuation. So my tour guide came and told me that they recommended I didn't do it. And I was like, all right, no drama. Turn around, we went back down, had an extra couple of hours sleep before the rest of the guys got back. So the whole experience for me was I didn't think about it too deeply, A, because I'm not a deep thinker, B, because I was just enjoying the experience with the people around me. With the athlete mentality, I just saw it as another challenge, and I was doing quite well with the challenge. So I was really enjoying the experience. Metaphorically, though, looking back on it, it basically summed up my life's journey. So I had no idea if I could climb Kilimanjaro. I'd done all the prep work and I felt pretty confident, but I had no idea what the result was going to be. But I knew that to get to the top, I had to start by getting from the bottom of the mountain to the first camp. Did that and had that, what do you call it, the equity. I had the equity built up that I knew I could keep walking forwards. So I just did it over and over again and got to the top. And looking back on it, climbing a mountain is the perfect metaphor for how I feel about my life. I doubted whether I could do it quite often, but just kept on putting one foot in front of the other over and over again, and eventually got to the top, and it's one of the proudest things I've done.
Wow. I love that, because when your doubts kicked in, you've just relied on what you know, one foot in front of the other, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Kobe said exactly the same thing when he tore his, I think it was his meniscus or his ACL. He's like, well, I'm so old. How am I going to come back from this? And his mentality was just put one foot in front of the other and do everything done before. You know how to do this, and have faith in what I call the inevitable. So inevitable is an outcome of all of the actions that you put in prior to that. And it's that trust equity which builds that compound energy to that inevitable outcome. And in this case, your inevitable outcome was Kilimanjaro. Your inevitable outcome was Kokoda Trail. So you've had a lot of inevitable outcomes. You're at the moment doing keynote speaking. You also have an awesome podcast which gets some amazing guests onto it.
Yeah.
You're focusing on now your keynotes and your podcast?
Yeah, so that's a side hustle. When I had my stroke, I was one subject away from finishing a journalism diploma at university. So when I got back on my feet, I finished that subject, went and applied for jobs at the commercial networks. But disability employment wasn't a thing back in 2007, so they all gave me the too hard basket. I wrote a letter to a guy at the ABC, and he was a massive Sydney Swans fan. So he saw that I played for the Swans. He said, yeah, come for an interview. So I went and did the interview at the ABC. He called me into his office and said, I'd done a current affairs quiz. And he said, pass mark for that quiz is 75%. You got 40%. I can't give you a job. So I went home with my tail between my legs, thinking I'd have to go and stock shelves at the local supermarket. But he rang the next day and said, we have a job in auto cue. Do you want that? Which is the teleprompter, the Ron Burgundy thing. So I said, yeah, cool. Thinking I'd get in there, climb the ladder and be an international journalist. I got a few job applications internally, but I still couldn't convince total strangers about the value I could bring to a role, because I still didn't know with my brain damage. So I started this side hustle business as a keynote speaker, a resilience coach, and a podcast host. Having no idea what the result was going to be, but I knew what my game plan was. I wanted to tell people to try their hardest, be proud of themselves, whether they win, lose, or draw, and not doubt themselves, because they will get the result will come, and they will get the result they've worked for based on what they've done earlier. So I was told early on that my message sounded like I was telling people to accept mediocrity or celebrate second best. And I always said, well, no, I'm just telling people, don't be a toolbox. Like, work hard, be good to people, and have faith that'll work out. So it was a bit tough going early on, because there were so many people out there saying, if you want to be better, you've got to wake up earlier, work harder, eat better, and really intense, stab people in the back sort of messages. Yeah. But I just kept on going with my message because I believed in it. I had faith the result would take care of itself. On my podcast, I've interviewed Adam Goods, the 2014 Australian of the Year, Tom Harley, who's just been promoted to COO of the AFL, and the Governor-General of Australia, Sam Mostyn, invited herself onto my podcast, which I thought was a joke, and I just laughed and said, yeah, that'd be cool, but you're a bit busy. She said, no, I'll make it happen. We'll do it at Admiralty House. So I interviewed the Governor-General of Australia at Admiralty House, which is one of the proudest things I've done. So I love it. And probably the best bit of feedback I've had, the best testimonial I've had from all lines of work in this regard was from a year 12 school student when I gave a speech at a leadership group in Adelaide. He ran up to me after my speech and he said, "Oh, Barnaby, thanks so much. That was awesome. Thanks so much." I was like, "Yeah, no worries, mate. Just calm down." He said, "No, I saw you speak when I was in year 9, done everything you said, and here I am as a year 12 leader." And the look of pride in his eyes, he was a prefect. He wasn't the school captain, wasn't a house captain, but he was so proud because he had those doubts that just being a good person wasn't enough. But he thought, well, I've seen examples of it happen, so I know it can work. And then he became a prefect and he was so proud of himself. I couldn't believe it. So that was the most heartwarming testimony I've had, that I'm making a real difference in the world.
You just never know, right? You never know who you're impacting. You never know what they're taking on board. You never know how many times somebody comes back and re-listens to a podcast.
Yeah.
When they start following you on social media and they sit in the background, silent, never saying a word, never engaging, they're watching all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's the gift that we've been given with regards to Zoom and podcasts and social media. Too often they're made out to be the devil incarnate, but it's really all we use them for. And if we can utilize them as a platform for positivity and to encourage people to continue to just strive for a little bit more, to do the reps, to be consistent. But at the fundamental part of that, the basis of all of that is know who you are. Your value is not attached to what you've achieved. Your achievements are outside of how valuable you are as a person.
And it's the same as you said before. It's consistency. It's doing it over and over again and believing that it's working. Because there are people in the background watching and listening and taking note. But when I think you see a lot of examples of it today where people try something, don't get 1 million followers and say, "Oh, well, that was a waste of time. It didn't work. I'll try something else." No. Then what the message they're putting out is all inconsistent. If you believe something, keep saying that message and keep doing it over and over again, because people listen, people know, people take notice of what you're doing.
And I can speak from experience, Barnaby, as a woman who has a message which is a little bit on the unique side. You get people that have very strong opinions for and against your message. But at the end of the day, if you are convinced about that message and the necessity for that message and that you are the person to deliver it, then by no means should you underestimate the power of a message getting in the right hands to the right people. The message of Uncommon is for everybody. Even though I work exclusively with men, it's for everybody to understand exactly what you've exemplified today, which is simply that we all have it within us. We just need to believe what we know. And if we're unsure about what we know, get around people that can help to reinforce that knowledge for us. Coaches, friends, people that you encounter on the street, random acts of gratitude and also random acts of recognition, little things that can help you to feel really good about yourself and remind you that you are who you are outside of everything you achieve.
Yeah, bloody oath. And I love your message, the uncommon thinking, but I think uncommon thinking nowadays is just common thinking. Like working hard, being good to people, isn't that uncommon? But in today's world, everyone's trying these different things, these sexy things to promote their brand, to get noticed above their competition. Yeah. Just stop it. Just don't be a dickhead. Just work hard, be good to people.
I love the way you say that. Don't be a dickhead. Just don't. Thank you so much for your time today, Barnaby. I have immensely enjoyed this. I anticipated enjoying our conversation, so I'm not at all surprised. I did want to give you one opportunity to do two things. First of all, what is a piece of life-changing advice that you would like to pass on to the audience? And second of all, let us know how we can get in touch with you, because I'm sure there will be a lot of people that will want to follow your journey.
Thanks very much. So the first piece of advice, I actually thought I made this up and I thought it was brilliant, and I was thinking about copywriting it. After my stroke, a lot of people were really intense in my hospital room and said, "Oh, why did you suffer this? You've been a good person. Why did fate put this on you?" And I always just shrugged my shoulders and said, "Rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. But there comes a time when you just have to get over it and go and play in the puddles." So I thought that was a brilliant slogan, and I thought I was going to reap rewards from it. But my friend recently just texted me a passage from the Bible that said almost exactly the same thing. So I think I was a bit late to the party, but that's my word of advice to leave people with, that sorry to swear on your podcast, but shit happens.
Yeah.
It's not a justification for the kind of person you've been. Like, I felt like I was a good person, but had a stroke that sucked. But, have faith in the people around you, and the result does take care of itself. So you just keep doing the things you believe in. So that's my advice to anybody who is either struggling or not even struggling, people that want more out of life. It's all there. It's not external. It's not a mystical thing. It's just ready. It's inside you, ready to be untapped. And the only thing holding you back is the belief in yourself to do it. So just, don't stress, don't freak out, don't worry that you don't have what you need. You've got it. It's inside you. You just got to find it. If anybody would like to get in touch, probably through my social media accounts, Barnaby Howarth on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, send me a direct message. I like to speak to people in person. So send me a direct message. We'll exchange phone numbers and we'll have a chat and maybe a coffee and see what we can do for each other.
Awesome. Brilliant, Barnaby. Again, once more time, thank you very much. I'm going to extend an invitation to you. If you find yourself around Sydney, which I know you live here, in March next year, Trunis and I, and he'll tell you that I roped him into it, and I may or may not have done, going to be competing in a CrossFit competition as an over 50s team. So if you would like to come and join us, we would love to have you there as a cheerleader on the side. I expect that around about round 2, we're going to need someone like you to provide us what we're capable of when we're in absolute pain and screaming.
Yeah, look, I'd love to come and cheer you guys on. I, as you said, I was on that podcast with Trunis, and I think he's a really good dude. So I know you're a good human being. So yes, I'll come and give you all the support you need.
Fantastic. Well, once again, Barnaby, thank you so much for your time. Guys, Barnaby's been amazing. Please make sure that you jump on his podcast or his social media. He obviously has a very, very strong message to share with everyone, and I'm sure it's a message that you can all relate to. We'll see you next.